Perfect. This is the first time I'm doing live editing, so this is pretty cool for me, and kind of giving you a little bit breakdown of the whole process and what I do. So this will actually just be a full rundown of this project and some of the key photos. Maybe I'll do the whole set, maybe I'll do a couple of the key ones, but just to give you an idea of the process and what kind of shots I'm capturing on site so that I have enough for post-production, as well as the whole post-production of blending different flashes if I have to, ambience, things like that. So basically, I've already culled all the key files. So if you were to go through everything, yeah, there's a lot, and I don't use everything here. And so I basically, my first step is to dump all the files in and start just selecting the ones that I feel like are very important. So you can tell I put this hand in front of the camera to let me know, okay, I am starting for this shot. So you can tell we are actually, in this example, running through different examples. I'm testing light, we're styling the space in different ways, but I still want to get an idea of how that's looking with the different flashes that I'm doing and things like that, until I'm at a happy position where I know, okay, these are the key ones that I go. And so you can see there's probably 3, 6, 9, 18, 21. So 21 shots before I even get to the ones where I want to feel happy with the light. And then that way I don't have to cull when I'm in here and going crazy and being like, okay, where is all of these 30 shots? It's like, nope, we only have these kind of different exposures or different shots with the shutter increasing to get different lighting, as well as different variations with the door closed. So this is actually a really good example of showing kind of what we do when we do different variations of the same shot, so that way we don't have to move the tripod or do anything like that. So for the first one, I've already actually I just wanted to play around with it and kind of see the general tone that I wanted to take this. And so in general, I've already edited this, but this is basically the before if I were to single these out. So the way that I like to rate things is by just running through each of the files and just 1-starring them. Then I'll go back through a second pass and do 2 stars for the ones that I'm starting to edit. So things like that. And then basically from here I start to add 3-star if they're edited, things like that. And so that's just my general process to keep me organized. But you could see this is kind of the before, and this one was pretty good. I used mostly ambient, and that's where I feel like most of this shoot will be ambient, or at least some sort of flash that I've been able to set up ahead of time, which is nice. Not always is that the case. You can ignore that. That's, in this case, the designer wanted to remove this light, and you could flash, you could keep it, you could say it's part of the design. In this case, the designer just wanted it out. So what we did was we blocked that light with a 5-in-1 and made it super soft, and that's really all we needed. So I use that, and basically that's it. And I still will typically flash just for safety. Maybe there's something that I can use in here for shadows, details, things like that. So I did use some flash, especially over here, to kind of keep it a little cleaner, but really the most of it is pretty much ambient, which is awesome. That's typically the best way if you can. If not, then yeah, add your flashes. So for this next shot, let's just get right into it. So this will be the reverse of this, and so I'm just going to go through the blends. I'm not going to do cloning, not on these, because I just have to run through these. So my typical process too is I will blend everything together first, and then I will do cloning last. So that way, if I'm running out of time or doing anything, at least the whole image is ready to go. It's in the style that I like it, and I know for a fact, like if I send this to an editor, all they have to do is literally cloning, like nothing else, and it makes it so much faster and easier. And so yeah, now I'm just gonna run through this. So this was my original. So now we're getting into the second image of this photo shoot. And let's see. Actually, you probably, yeah, maybe I'll show you real quick all of the key compositions just so you have a reference. So we have this one as the main, as our first major. Then we have the reverse. Then we have a nice peekaboo through the door, and having these slats are super important. And so we did a slat with the door open and then with the door closed. So it's pretty cool. Get to do one of those GIF kind of things, and very simple, you know, just once the tripod's set, you just pop another shot once the lighting and everything is set up properly. Then we hop back in and we got this little vignette, and probably be somewhere between that, nice little bloom, and then one with the door open, and then getting into these niches here, which is really nice. This was super important for the designer as well as the stone manufacturer, so they have a lot to do here. This project was cost shared. If you're ever interested in learning more about cost sharing, let me know. Flash for safety. I didn't white balance this yet or anything like that, so that's why you'll probably see some different colors. So as we go through these individual photos, you'll know how to work through these. So I'm just giving you an example of what is to come, and more of a, I just really like this one. Designer didn't ask for it, I just personally really wanted this, but this will be more for the stone manufacturer for the wall. Then another detail of the space, nice soft lighting, a little bit of a mirror action. I think this is super fun. I love playing with mirrors if I can. Then something specific for the tub. This one took a while to find. The designer and I were really trying to play. It's a super small space, which is actually a pretty common question that comes up, is how do you photograph a super tight space? And yeah, you just have to play with the composition. It took us probably a solid 20 minutes on site to like really just play around with a lot of shots and figure out, you know what, yeah, this isn't the most aesthetically pleasing if you were to say like something like this, but it is very practical for them. And so for like, I didn't want to take this, but the designer really wanted to, because they wanted to showcase this whole tub from top to bottom. And so in these cases, it is a balancing act of finding, yes, as a photographer, you want to find the best of the best and do all these things, but at least from my side, there also has to be some sort of practicality to things. And so for the designer, they have to show this. And yes, you could say it was shown in the full, but it's not a focus piece. And so they really wanted to have this so that when they are talking to their clients and showcasing, hey, we've been able to showcase and show these different angles of this tub that it was very specific to the design. It's a tight space, so they've made it very, very large and round so that it fits perfectly in this little corner. There's a whole lot of thought that goes behind it. And as a photographer, like, yeah, I want to make it pretty, but I also have to make it suitable for the designer for their own sales process. And so that's where my mind is always at. So some people might have skipped something like this. I don't. And I think it's valuable for them, and so therefore it's valuable to me. Then we have the bedroom. Really important to get these slat walls and kind of showcasing some of the bedding. Unfortunate, this one will be tough. You can see it's horizontally straight here, but then the bed itself was not. And this thing weighs a tank, and so we're definitely not moving that. We were running out of time. We spent a lot of time in the bathroom, and so we were kind of cut a little bit, and which was kind of a management thing that I also have to deal with. And so this was, you could see even the carpet's not perfectly aligned, the bed's not perfectly aligned, but I did space it to here. And the reason I did that was because I could take this bed and then distort it down a little bit, and it's not going to mess around with the rest of the room. So I could play with that. You'll see what I do with that one. And basically kind of coming in flashing. We're on the second floor, and so I'll expand on more why I decided to flash pop here versus setting up big lights. And in these ones, yeah, you could set lights. And so I'm playing around here for this vignette, and then same thing here, playing around with this vignette with the different lighting, exposures, I can play around with a little bit of them, and then with the door open to show, oh wow, this is a very hidden feature, really cool feature that the designers were very, very pushing to showcase. Then we have nice little corner here, and this is all in the same bedroom, which is awesome. I love when we can stay in one space. Doesn't always happen. I really love this. I personally would like to keep it, but we did, as a safety, shoot it without it as well, just so in case if, let's say, the designer's style is very much more of a bright, airier look. My personal style is much more dramatic, and I would keep a lot of the shadows. But you know what? These are the scenarios where I will photograph two options so that I have the flexibility for my own portfolio, or if I want to make a YouTube video or showcase something on social media with this, great, I can. For the designer's portfolio, great, we have that too. And so it's just a matter of getting it on site. I'm typically on the side of get more on site, what's the problem, and at least it gives me the option to have enough to play with in post. So here, same thing, just kind of a little bit more angled, and then playing around with the lighting. Then the last couple shots is really just this little corner. I love this thing. I love this shot so much. And then the last thing is this furniture piece and artwork that they have. So I didn't count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 bedroom shots, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bathroom shots, plus some like quick handheld shots that I like to get for myself as well. You know, like they're just fun little dynamic, little moodier, some playground. You know, it's just having fun. I think it's important to stay creative on set, even if they're not portfolio pieces for the client. I still want to practice my own creative. And there's a car siren outside, so hopefully that doesn't go in the audio now. So essentially that is about it. So we have 11, 18. So we had about 11, 8. So we had about 19 shots today during this photo shoot. Definitely more than, and we did this in about 8 hours. So yeah, that's about right. We were able to hit, and the nice thing is that we were able to stay in one space. Like this bathroom is connected to that primary bedroom as well. So it just goes to show, you know, like we were in a very tight space. We were able to keep it all in one, and we were still only able to get about 19 photos in the whole day, like 8-hour day. So don't rush it. I wasn't rushing here, and I thought we were able to get some really nice shots. We were able to get enough information that we could play with it in post, and it, you know, we could have even gone less, but we were also cost sharing with the stone manufacturer. So I really wanted to make sure, for me personally, I wanted to make sure I had some stone specific shots. So things like where is it? Yeah, things like this are important for me to get, at least from my mindset, for the stone manufacturer. You know, it's just something clean, something true to what it is. Yeah, you do get it here in context of the space, but I think it's just fun, and that's kind of the point for me, at least. Keep it fun, keep it relaxed, and Interiors by Popov is awesome. So that is it. That's kind of the breakdown. Now, I know that's a long intro, but now you have context, and we are getting into the first one. So I'll probably split this video into 2 different sections, one as an intro, maybe, or just keeping this as the full-length YouTube video. But then on socials, I'll cut these down into individual pieces. So getting into the first photo here, like I mentioned, this is already done. So getting into the next photo, actually, is going to be the reverse of this. Oops. reverse. Perfect. And let's get into it now. So the first thing I try to do is white balance. White balance and make sure all of the flashes, all of the ambience are about the same. And so these are my bracket exposures. And yeah, it's super hot, as you can see on the histogram, but I'm gonna get rid of these hard lights, and you'll see how I do that. So we have the general exposure. Okay, good. For a second I thought I was out of focus and I was gonna freak out a little bit, but we are all good. So that's how we get rid of it. Nice 5-in-1. And that's all you need. And so same thing here. Unfortunately it wasn't as big, so I'm going to do it in 2s. Just ignore my shirt. I didn't realize it wasn't long enough at the time. And then I still flash just as a safety. You know, it's so fast to do. So yeah, that's about it. It took me like 2 seconds to do this. And you know what? Now I have some nice color in here. It's just a safety. And let's see. So this white balance seems a lot obviously cleaner. So these feel a little too warm now. So I'm gonna actually tame it down. I do want to have some warmth in there. So maybe like 4100 on Lightroom. So maybe I'll stick to about 4100. And what I'll do here. Oops. 4100. So I will sync these all up, check none, and just do white balance. Great. So now we have those. Have this. They're pretty dang similar. Of course, we can adjust them later. Now the next piece will be for the flashes. And maybe these are a little too sterile. So I'll bump these up to maybe 5200. Yeah, I like that. Maybe even 5100. Yeah, very similar. $51.50. Yeah, let's keep that. Sync those up, same thing. And then with the flashes in particular, so you can see how these are a little bit darker. I will probably bump this up quite a bit, but for the flashes, they seem almost a little too bright. So I will, oh, okay, it looks like I was actually bumping the exposure up a little bit, which is, you could do, but I try to just keep things as easy as possible for blending. So I actually don't mind that. Maybe my initial thought was that I wanted to go very bright, but not anymore after taking a look at them. So once I kind of adjust everything in Lightroom, then I will take edit in, open as layers, and then play a waiting game. Oof, I gotta wear longer shirts, damn, okay. Did not realize that. So hopefully I can open up this window. It doesn't make it too loud. I might skip this part. Okay. Now that all of the layers have been added from Lightroom, I will highlight them all, go to edit, auto align layers, and I just click auto. There's some occasions where they might be shifted by a pixel or two, and that's totally fine. If you notice that, you just actually go in here and transform it and then move it however which direction that makes sense for the pixel. If that's a question that comes up, just let me know. If it shows up here, I'll do it. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna run through it all. But yeah, from here, now what I will do is I will start to just figure out, okay, where's my base layer? Is it gonna be this? No, probably gonna be the first one, so I will just flat out call this base. Then I'll just work my way down, and I just say -1 as like, okay, -1, one stop, +1 stop, and then this is very similar. So I don't know why I got that, but okay, don't need it, so I'll just get rid of it. This one is for the far light. Fuck. I don't know, I just kind of name them however which way I just name them whatever comes into my head at the time. So I'm just calling these, like, I'm going on the right side and left side. Right side, left side of it. And then flash. Let's see, what is the flash doing? So the flash is, yeah, I'll just say flash. Actually, I kind of like how it's over here, so I will just say flash right, like right side. And then, yeah, flash right side, remove me. So I can get rid of myself essentially here. Then the last one, flash here. So as I'm saying this, I do bounce around from this idea. Maybe I should keep it consistent, but, and I will here actually. So from here on out, I will actually say flash left, because that's where I am physically standing, or sorry, flash center, because that is where I'm physically standing. Then I will say flash left, and then any notes that come to mind, so I know. And there you go. Now I have pretty much everything ready to go. Everything's aligned, and let's just get to it. So first one, how do I want this to look and feel? So I feel like I want to bloom it a little bit off to, like, it feels almost a little too dark in here. So maybe what I'll do is use this black mask, take a brush. I always use flow because it's more of a kind of pencil. So if you don't know opacity and flow, opacity will, if I do like 100% opacity, let's just white layer it, and if I go here, see that big streak, but now if I go back over, it's just gonna stay at 100, which is great. Okay, maybe I'll show you now at 20%. So 20%, same thing. You could see that increase, but if I'm holding the button down and constantly moving it across the same spot, nothing is changing. With flow, if I go 20%, it will take 20% here, but as I go back over, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, meanwhile, like, it adds on more and more. So it'll take on that 20, then if you add on another 20, 40, if you add on another 20, 60, it's equivalent to a 60%. So I like flow because it's almost like a pencil, like you're sketching. And like a pencil, you scrape over, you have that mark there, then you come back over, there's another mark. And so that's basically that. Very quick example. You can actually see it in here where it's kind of like, yeah, this is probably an easier example to show. I'll just do this super fast just to show here. So 10%, you can see me constantly making it brighter, 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 brighter until it reaches 100%. Or if you do opacity at, let's just say 20 on this side, you see as I'm going, it's not getting brighter and brighter. The only times it does is if I click it again, and then click it again, and click it again. So yeah, you could use both, you could use either. For me, I personally just like using flow. I rarely ever touch opacity, and I'll just put the flow at like 10% or even 5%. if it's probably at the beginning, let's just try actually 20, just to play around with it. And then I back out so I can see everything. Big brush, 20. And I will just brighten there. Maybe I'll actually go down to 10%. So now I'm down at 10. And I'll just brighten up these darker areas. And you know what? Yeah, I don't want to make it too bright to where it's like you lose the focus and the shadow kind of contrast and things like that. So what I do is, in Photoshop, what's nice, you have masks. And so you can always tailor this down, and I will typically reduce the whole layer opacity just to test and see like, okay, where's that happy medium? And so I'll typically go overboard with the mask at first if I'm brushing things in, and then just tailor it down with the opacity. So for here, this is just how I like it. So, and then I'll go back in the mask, put a black, and bring back some of the contrast a little bit. And even then, 10% seems too much, so I'll go 5%. So that way it's a little bit more of a pencil-like feeling. I think it's a little too bright here, so I'm just flat out drawing it in. Okay, so I think I like that. See, it just brightens it, but in a natural way, versus if you were to just flat HDR it, it would not, it would just look gross. I hate HDR. Automatic HDR, I think, just looks gross 99% of the time. Definitely some use cases, I can't say it all the time, but that's just my opinion. And let's see, far light block, that's the next piece I want to get rid of. So I will reduce this, same thing. In this case, I'll just go 100% flow. And for anyone knowing, to adjust this with your keyboard, just go Shift and you can type in 1, and that's 10. You can say Shift 2, so you can see that getting changed. Shift 3, Shift 4, Shift 5. Oh, and if you do like back to back, like fast, like 100, that's 100. So you can go 55 or 100 if you type it really quickly. So for me, I'm just doing 100 for 100, getting this to be the same size, white mask, and just kind of tapping that in. Yeah, you could see that I am there still, but that's okay. I will remove myself, so Shift 20, whoops, just to get me out of there a little bit easier. Shift 100, and just staying far away from where I just put it, just so. And let's test that. Definitely makes it a little warmer, and it looks like it's spilled here, so I'm just gonna get rid of that. So now it's just fine-tuning that mask. I don't want to get rid of like the look and feel. Just want this little section. Okay, perfect. So I do like the color it has here. So now it's just a matter of fine-tuning this mask. But that's what I mean. Some of you might actually like having this light in there. That's totally fine. I think it's just preference and kind of the client's what they want at the end of the day. And do I personally like it? I think it just depends on the style. For this shot, I think it looks better without it. It's almost too distracting, I feel like. And I kind of like the warmth that this layer has compared to what it was before. So just get rid of that. And I like how what it's doing to the stone as well. So kind of the same thing. It does add a little bit more shadow, so maybe I'll actually get rid of that. So that's kind of the game. I'm constantly just messing around with the layer here. And I'm just gonna get rid of that. I'm a lot more OCD about things than probably most, so you could do this as quickly or as fast or as slow as you want. I take my time with the blends, and I will do clones much faster. I think that's a good, right there. You could tell it definitely brightened the space up a little bit too much. Especially you could start seeing these like blend lines. So let's see if this works then. So I'm just kind of getting it out of from the other areas that maybe it's a little too much. And you know what? Oops, brought it back. You can probably hear my mouse clicking. I'm just tapping the mouse to keep it nice and light. And then it's still showing quite a bit. Let's see. So maybe what I will do, take some curves, apply it to this layer, and then try to match the whole space together. Just kind of blend it. So I just use curves to kind of help kind of touch on the different areas where I feel like it doesn't really match well with the rest of the space. And so I think it helps blend it back into the nice softness versus how it was before. There's still this little line here. I think it's fine. Worst case, if I go back for cloning later on, I'll just get rid of that then. So before, after, there's still some of that light there. So what I'll do actually is start to blend these even a little bit more. I think it's a little too dark, so I will bump that up. Black mask this after, and then kind of bring back that light a little bit here just to kind of help with the space. Plus, it's also nice. I like to have, it's almost like the brightest spot is in the back of the room. Also use this as an opportunity to kind of brighten up the other areas that I feel like are too dark. And that's a little too much, so like I was doing before, I'll just start to tailor it back in. Cool. I think right about there is good. So then I'll group these. Our light block. And there you go. I think that looks much less distracting. You get to see the whole mirror, which is an important feature as well for the designer. Yeah, there's still a couple things we gotta fix, but I think it's much better than what it was before. And then it looks like it did leak onto this door a little bit, so I'm just gonna get rid of that. So, just so it is a little bit nicer. So there you go. There's that one. Kind of helped blended. Even in this one, it was like dark, and I think you got some cast coming down here, a lot of deep shadows, and kind of brightened it up, made it a little bit airier, which is good, which is what the designer likes in this case. So, and then next thing, near block, I will bring myself in. So that's this whole left side. And then I'm just at 100, just for the first pass, and I'll tailor it down in a second. And I just want to see what this looks like completed. So you just have to be a little careful of where everything is. Trying to like not get as much spill into the other areas as possible. It is hard. So what we will most likely do is clone at some point. And And then reducing the flow so it kind of blends in a little bit more. Might be too low. So same thing. I think the lighting is a little off. I think it helps it blend for sure. There's like some dark spots in there. Yeah, definitely helps blend it together quite a bit more. Cool. Just for now, in this case, what we could do even right now, if we really wanted to, just kind of do one of these. And actually, the designer did ask me to remove this. So we were playing this game of basically not currently available. Why not? It's just working. Oh, interesting. I guess it couldn't be on that layer for whatever reason. Just get rid of it now. So the designer in this case, they had 3 hooks throughout the whole home, or throughout the whole bathroom, and they were just like, yeah, in these cases, just get rid of it if possible. I feel like that's a good one. Doesn't remove the stone quality, but it does help get rid of that. It does help connect the shadows in this space. So if this can match with down here a little bit better, then that's perfect. And it's just a back and forth, kind of helps blend. I think that works. And then same thing here. Smaller the spaces, or smaller the generative fill, the better. I will rarely do cloning before I finish blending, but when it's something like this, then I will, like where it's a key piece of what we're doing in terms of the blend. Because without it, then I would just look, then I would just be staring at it the whole time and kind of pulls me out. I think I actually just like it how it was before, so I won't even touch that area. I think there's like some weird shadow line here that I just want to, it's just bothering me, so I'm just gonna do that now. This is what I mean. I could get super OCD with it, but that's just how I am. I like it to be clean, and might be too much for some, but that's okay. Not liking how any of these are, so I'll come back to it later. If it distracts me later, then I'll get rid of it. If it doesn't for now, then it's fine. And then what I could do actually on top of that, what I don't like about this whole space, so I could actually flash, which might help. So that's the thing, it's just a game of figuring out what works. No, don't like the flash, because that has that. So what I don't like is actually how the color shifts around, which is, it's a little too warm. But let's see, all right, what flashes do I like? Honestly, I don't really think I like any of the flashes. This one definitely adds a lot more shadow, but almost too much. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to use really any of the flashes. I'll see what this does here, just to compare. Flow 10. Okay, you know what? I do like how it adds some nice little shadow here. Maybe a little too much on those. But you know, I like it what it's doing for this stone here. Kind of separates out the foreground a little bit. I'll get rid of myself in a second. And I just want the luminosity of it right now. I don't want it to shift the color too much. Or what I could do actually, I've done this before. Turn one to color, one to luminosity. This one's color, flash center, color. Boom. And then what I will do is tailor it down just a little bit so it's not as warm. I think that's good for now. And then this one, flash left. Let's see. It does kind of have a nice. Ooh. It does get rid of this hot spot on the ground as well, which is. I mean, I actually don't mind that. Maybe it's a little too hot. Just a little bit. Not to get rid of it fully, but just a little bit. So it's not crazy distracting. Yeah, I like that. And then even here is a little too dark, but I do like the shadow that I was doing. So let's see what it does. Nice, yeah, just nice and soft. In there. Flash left, what was that doing? It wasn't doing much. And then actually I want to get rid of the shadow along here because I feel like it was a little too intense. Kind of is a little distracting, especially when there's like multiple shadows now, you can see. I think that's just natural because there's a big light here, big light here. I didn't want to set up a whole big thing up here to block the light. Probably could have put a black sheet up here, like taping it along this rim, skylight. Dang, I should have done that on site the more I think about it, because then you get rid of these double shadows pretty quickly, but that's okay. We live and we learn. Now I know. Maybe I will use this to kind of help get rid of the flash, or the shadows along here. Oof, okay, maybe not. Let's just see. I just want to see what this would do. Just playing at this point, seeing what looks good, what doesn't. So all I'm doing now is trying to blend it a little bit easier. Honestly, I don't mind it. And I'll duplicate that because the top will be much brighter. Seems to be, it needs way more. No, maybe I won't do that. Let's see. I do like the bottom. So I put things into groups all the time, so I can always blend them or mask them in. So yeah, maybe I'll just do something like that, where it's like very subtle, just to get rid of these shadows here. But not all of them, you know? Like, it's a lot less distracting up here versus down here where it was, so. And even then, it's like almost too hard of a shadow line compared to the rest, so that's good. It just helps me get rid of some extra stuff. And this is what I mean by having some extra flash pops. Like, it's totally fine to have them, and they take like 2 seconds. Perfect. Okay. I think that makes me feel much better. Kind of helps. Blends it together a little bit more. Doing something here. It's a little funky. So I'll just get rid of that. Yeah, these aren't details that not many people will see, but they are things that I will be staring at personally, so I decided to just get rid of them. Okay, next thing, I think these oranges are a little too deep, or the wood is a little too deep. So I will just reduce these a little bit. That kind of helps with the whole space feeling a little too warm. You can really see it if I zoom in. Just enough. Maybe I'll bump the... Yeah, let's do a bit more. Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'll plan to get rid of that. Let's see, if I were blending more, I think, let's try white balancing everything a little bit more. So I think it's a little green and yellow. Cool. Yeah, it was a little green. Add a little bit more red. It's very subtle. Cool. And then what I'll probably do is, just for the sake of it, keeping everything very clean, we'll select the whole space. Actually, what I'll do is probably select the individual things within the space that I don't want to be colored across. You'll see what I'm doing in a second. Basically what I'm going to do here is get rid of some of the cast across the space by, sure, I'll select the ground as well. Cool. I will reverse this selection, Command Shift I, then go to solid color, and then drop this to color. Definitely don't want to keep that, but I will bring it to like, I don't know, maybe 10%. Just tames it down, keeps everything like a cohesive tone, I guess, or color. I just felt like it was a little too warm in most of the space, and this is just personal preference. Maybe even like 8%. So yeah, I am pretty particular about this, and probably even smarter to keep the blinds closed. Oh wow, I can really see now. Yeah, ideally you're not editing in bright light, but I think that's pretty much it. Just gonna see what this does. It does help get rid of that a little bit, the color. and gives a little bit more texture into here. So I'm just gonna very lightly, oh shoot, that's at 50%. So I'm gonna go back to 10% and then just very lightly touch on the towels. Get rid of that again. Again, you don't have to get rid of that if you're editing it for yourself, but that's what the designer wanted in this case, so I'm gonna do it. Maybe just a hair. Cool. Just a little bit. Don't need it, but it's a nice thing to have. Cool. I think that is essentially the base blends. I don't need this. So I'll just put that as red for now. Whoops. Just so I have a visual reference of where this is. And then I will put these together in blends. And then what I will do is camera raw from here. I do a lot of my global adjustments in camera raw in Photoshop. And this is really where I start to play with it in terms of lighting and contrast, like where the focus point is of the image. Bump up the highlights a little bit more. And I just go kind of on gut feel. I don't mind having a little hot spots here. I don't need it to be pure, you know? I kind of like it anyways when it's a little hot. Makes it feel realistic. I do like having it more exposure, but I want to keep it actually from one particular area. So I'm going to actually drop the exposure, put a radial gradient. This is like, I do this almost on every single photo. Pretty much, actually, no, on every single photo. So, and then I will, as if it's coming from that skylight, which it was in real life, but I'm just emphasizing it. And then duplicate, invert, and then drop the exposure a little bit here. And then I will tailor that down a little bit. I'll just zoom out, kind of see what it's doing. Cool. And then maybe I'm always feathering things down because I have a heavy hand. And so I just kind of gauge and kind of rock it back and forth on the slider until I'm very happy with it. So in this case, I actually want it to be brighter, so I'm going a little bit higher than 100. But that's just how I naturally feel like it should be to my eyes. And I kind of like this little bloom that's going on here now. And so the more I look at it, I might actually add a nice little hot spot on the cabinet here. Cool. I like that. I use dehaze a lot as well. Kind of helps, especially if you want to make it like bright and airy. Kind of helps that. I know a lot of people who will crank the clarity like crazy. I know for like real estate, that's a big thing, like clarity, texture, and all that crap. But I'm just kind of like, I want to make it bloomy. So I'm going to reduce that a little bit. Doesn't have to be 100% sharp for me. I will actually also decrease saturation. I typically decrease saturation and then go into color mixer and then make like 2 to 3 colors stand out more. So in this case, I would say the oranges, yeah, we can bump those up a little bit. Well, that's really about it. Maybe the yellows a little bit. Okay, so that's really about it. Kind of tame it down. And then calibration. I also do this probably on every single photo. Don't ask me why. I just think it adds the warmth and kind of pop to color, like warmer colors, in a much more natural way than if I were to tweak it constantly within the color mixer. So it just depends on the photo, how far I crank it, but I feel like it's very subtle, but it does add a little pop of color back in here. So maybe I'll actually pop it a little bit more. Yeah, I like that. Brings back the colors, but in a natural, soft way. And let's see. Curves, I will typically, this is just my style, I like to very lightly crunch the blacks and whites, and then drop that down, and then depending on the photo, how much it makes it pop, I will do that. So there you go. Adds a little bit more direction. So yes, you could do a lot of these different ways. Like I could do contrast, I could do shadows, highlights, blah, blah, blah. But I like to layer things constantly. So I'm going through here, then I'm layering in the dehaze, but then I'm layering a little bit more blacks on top, like dropping the blacks down here and there. And I just feel like playing this layer game just makes it, to me, I don't know, it just makes it easier for me to remember, or I can adjust things very finely versus just like one tool that does everything, where it's like, okay, if I adjust this tool, it's adjusting everything. And so I like to take it into little steps, and then typically I will add some sharpening just for the sake of it. Whoops. There wasn't much noise in general, but so that is pretty much it. And histogram looks good. I'm pretty happy with this. I might adjust some of the red. It does seem a little red the more I look at it. So that might have been from the white balance from earlier. But what I will do, super subtle, but it does do a lot. Like, it did get rid of the warmth quite a bit. So it just depends on how it compares to the next photo. So I'm not gonna get too crazy with it just now. So yeah, it's pretty much the same, but you can tell it does add a little bit blue here, or cyan, very subtly, but you know what, that's good. And that's about it for this one. I could straighten in there as well, but I'd like to confirm that this is the way that I want the blend before going too crazy. And yeah, I would say this is pretty much the second photo. Took a while, but that's just how I edit. I definitely take a long time to edit, so there's a couple things in cloning that I will get rid of. The designer does want these light switches to get rid of. We get rid of the can lights, get rid of these reflections. I'm gonna get rid of this guy, get rid of this line. I'm pretty much gonna get rid of all the reflections with cloning, and then clean up the faucet. And then in this case, I will get rid of this as well. And gonna keep that, gonna keep that. Any dirt. And so yeah, that will be like a whole other process as well. But at least for this photo, this is what I got. So I'm just gonna save this. It's definitely going to take a while. Large format. NZ8 photos. Let's see, media. Perfect. So now that this is saved, I am going to blue 2-star, and so now you can compare. Okay, so first thought, I really like the warmth here compared to here, where this now feels a lot more sterile. So what I will do is, I think there's almost like a middle ground I'll like to do. So I would maybe drop, and this is just because the designer in this case likes it to be less saturated, and so then this one is almost too desaturated, so I think it's just a warmth thing. Yeah, that feels much better. So this is what I mean. I like to adjust the overall blend first before going into cloning, because you never know how it's gonna look compared to the others. I think there's a lot more shadow here, but let's see what, I kind of like it a little less actually, comparing it. And so I feel like these are starting to get closer. Now there's still a little more red here. Yeah, I think these are looking much, much closer. So I'll still play around, but it's why it's so important to look at the images after you're done editing them, because I'll come back, do it later. As I'm cloning, I'll do some other tweaks here and there, and it just becomes this step-by-step process. And so I do like it. I like this a lot now. Yeah, there's actually no red there. So there is orange, so maybe just a little less orange. Perfect. These two are getting better. And that's the first two photos. So we will continue on. I'll split these up into little sections, so it's already hitting the hour mark. So I'll split this into another video, but getting into these, this one I love. I think this is such a cool photo. I think this will become a portfolio piece for me. And then a nice GIF. So I will get into the next video after this, but thanks for following along.